The stars were silent. For years, no one had heard a word from Earth. The humans had vanished from the galactic stage, leaving behind only fear and mystery. Some believed they had destroyed themselves. Others believed they were simply waiting. Watching then, one day everything changed. A strange signal moved across the stars. It came from a planet in the Celeron system, once ruled by a proud alien empire. Now, only ruins remained. The signal wasn't just a cry for help. It was a message of terror to the humans of Earth, to the Deathworlders. We beg for your mercy. Please, hear us. We were wrong. We need you. Every major species in the galaxy heard it. Zarkali High Council held emergency meetings. Crithian war fleets prepared for possible invasion. The Yellery scientists tried to decode the deeper meaning of the message, but none of them could believe it. The ones who had once mocked Earth feared it. The ones who called humans monsters were now begging for their return. The signal had been sent by the Siler Dominion, a race known for their cruelty and arrogance. They had helped push humanity out of the Galactic Council 100 years ago. Now, their leaders were gone. Their cities were silent. And their last act was to ask for help from the one species they once betrayed. On Earth, deep under the icy clouds of New Antarctica, the signal was received. A quiet room filled with blinking screens and silent officers became tense. One man, Commander Roll, read the message again and again. His eyes stayed cold. His voice was calm. Play it one more time. The signal repeated, full of fear. Alien voice cracked as it spoke. Roll said nothing for a long time. Then he looked up. Wake the council. In the center of Earth's Defense Command, 12 old leaders gathered. Some wore uniforms of old wars. Others wore long robes of science and diplomacy. They watched the message in silence. No one smiled. No one moved. They want our help, said one counselor, her voice bitter. After all they did. They destroyed our ships, said another. They called us monsters. Now they beg. But one voice, deeper and calmer, spoke from the shadows. It was General Kyra Voss, the only survivor of the Battle of Eliron Prime. A scar ran across her face, from her forehead to her jaw. They're scared, she said. Truly scared. And something made them that way. What could scare? The Siler Dominion? Asked another. She answered with only 2 words. Something worse. Outside the Earth's orbit, in a quiet and forgotten dock, an old Terran warship powered on. Its engines had not burned in 50 years. Its weapons were still sharp. It had one name painted across its side, TNSR EVENANT. Inside, machines woke. From sleep, guns unlocked. Shields hummed. A single voice echoed through the halls. Protocol Fury is now in effect. Back in the galaxy, more signals came. One from the Saran Belt, a mining colony with no soldiers, was destroyed in minutes. The only footage showed a dark mist spreading through space like a living shadow. Ships vanished, lights went out, and then nothing. Another message came from the rim worlds. They're not just killing, they're feeding. Panic spread. Planets that once ignored Earth now begged for contact. Messages were sent to Mars, to Luna, to Titan asking for aid, asking for forgiveness. But Earth stayed silent. In the silence, rumors grew. Some said humans were building a secret army. Some believed the Deathworlders had become more dangerous than ever. They were all right, on a quiet moon near Jupiter. 2 children watched the stars through a small telescope. One asked the other, "Will the monsters come here?" The other replied, "No, not while humans are still alive." And high above them, Earth's ships began to move. The galaxy had asked for mercy. What they didn't understand was that humans no longer gave mercy. They gave fire and fury. The stars waited for an answer from Earth, but Earth said nothing. The alien races grew more afraid. Every hour, more messages came, each one full of fear. Please respond. We are under attack. Whole worlds are gone. We don't know how to stop them. We were wrong about you. Please help us. But Earth remained quiet. On the surface, nothing seemed to move. Cities still glowed under the clouds. Farms grew. Families lived. children played. The world looked peaceful. But below, deep underground, things were different. A hidden bunker, miles below New Antarctica, was now full of activity. Soldiers marched through steel corridors. Commandos studied maps of stars. Drones and machines buzzed like bees in a hive. Commander Roll stood in the control room, watching the stars on a wide screen. Each blinking red light was a destroyed world. The red was spreading fast. He said nothing. Beside him, General Kyra. Voss studied the enemy signals. "They don't use ships," she said. "They move like shadows, fast, silent, smart. They feed on energy," said a scientist. "They drain it from planets, from stars, even from living things." Room fell silent. "Have they spoken?" asked Rawl. "No," said the scientist. "They don't answer hails. They just come." Outside, the Terran war fleets were not yet fully awake. Their ships were still hidden in deep space. Earth had not called them home. Not yet. But one fleet, the Ghost Fleet, had already moved. In the black emptiness between stars, 12 massive ships appeared from nowhere. Their hulls were black as night. Their engines made no sound, had no flags, no colors, no names. Only a simple order burned in their systems. Observe, do not interfere, lest Protocol Fury is confirmed. Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, the Galactic Council was falling apart. The once-proud alien leaders shouted in fear. Some demanded Earth's help. Others said humanity should stay gone forever. "They are too dangerous," cried a Yllari speaker. "They destroyed half our fleets during the last war." "Oh, but they are our only chance," said a Siler noble. "The enemy doesn't fear us, but it might fear them." Still, Earth gave no answer. The silence was louder than any words. On Mars, an old AI named Sentinel-3 woke from deep sleep. Its code had been written by humans during the Great Betrayal, when the Council had turned against them. Its voice was cold and perfect. "Begin scan. Confirm external threat. Await Earth's final command." Back on Earth, a secret group of humans met in a dark room. These were not politicians or generals. These were the architects, the ones who had planned for this moment 100 years ago. "They called us monsters." One of them said, "Now they cry like children." "They will use us again," said another. "Beg today, betray tomorrow. Should let the galaxy burn." But the oldest among them, a woman with silver eyes, whispered, "No, we return not for mercy, not for them. We return for balance." In the cold space above Saturn, something old began to move. A hidden weapon, built in secret and powered by dark matter, started charging. It had one name, the Leviathan Protocol. No one had spoken its name in 80 years, but now its systems came alive, quietly, carefully, and still. Earth said nothing. The galaxy watched. Ships waited at the edge of Terran space, afraid to enter. They knew what happened to those who crossed the line without permission. 1,000 stories told of Terran wrath, how one human ship could take down an entire alien fleet. So they waited, and behind Earth's silence, something terrible grew. Stronger the enemy, the shadows had no voice, but they had a plan. They were moving toward the Sol system. Slowly, surely, they believed. Humans were hiding, they didn't know. Humans were preparing in the dark halls of the Revenant. The old Terran warship, a human soldier, stood in front of a locked vault. His face was calm, but his hands shook. He pressed his palm to the scanner. The vault opened. Inside was a black cube, pulsing with red light. A voice spoke. "Fury Protocol confirmed." A long time ago, before the silence, there was a pact. It was called the Unity Accord. Signed by Earth and the Galactic Council, it promised peace, trade, and protection. Humans had joined the stars with hope. They had shared knowledge, technology, and even soldiers. But then came the betrayal. The Council feared humans. They feared the way Terran soldiers fought. They feared the strength of human minds, the toughness of human bodies, the fire in human hearts. "They are too dangerous," the aliens had whispered behind closed doors. They are not like us. They come from a death world. The council broke the pact. They turned on Earth. Terran colonies were destroyed. Human fleets were surrounded and wiped out. Earth itself was nearly attacked, but it was too strong. Instead, Earth left no warning. Silence. For 100 years, the humans disappeared. They shut down communications. They left the council. They became ghosts. And now, the very ones who betrayed them were begging them to return. In a large meeting room on Earth, the Terran Council stood around a black table. Old flags hung on the walls. Silence in the room was heavy. A hologram of the original Unity Accord hovered above the table. Words glowed. Peace through unity. Strength through trust. They broke this, said Commander Rawl. They forgot. Their own words. They murdered our people, said General Kyra. And now they ask us to forget? They will betray us again, said one counselor. We cannot trust them. But the high chairwoman, an old woman with steel gray hair, raised her hand. This is not about trust, she said. This is about survival. She walked to the hologram and tapped a line at the bottom. If this pact is ever broken, humanity shall never return. That was the final line. Kyra looked at it and said, We already broke it, long ago. Rawl nodded. Then maybe it's time to break something else. It's far away, in deep space. An alien refugee ship floated near the border of Terran space. It was damaged, engines barely working. Families were inside, scared and silent. A Terran scout ship appeared beside it, smooth black. Silent, the aliens froze. A human voice came through. You have crossed into restricted space. Identify. The alien captain responded, his voice shaking. We are not enemies. We seek help. We seek safety. Silence. Then the human voice returned. Your message has been received. Stand by. The scout ship disappeared. Minutes later, massive Terran rescue ships arrived. The refugees were taken inside. They were given food, water, shelter. No questions. No anger. One alien child looked up at a human soldier and asked, Why are you helping us? The soldier looked down, silent for a moment. Then he said, Because the enemy coming doesn't care who you are. On the far edge of the galaxy, the enemy moved again. The shadows had no ships. They were the ships. They moved like waves, eating stars, destroying moons, crushing fleets. And now they had turned toward Earth, on a distant listening post. A Terran officer watched the map. Dozens of red markers flashed. One by one, systems were going dark. Estimated time before contact with Sol system? Asked the officer. The AI beside him answered, 12 days, 10 hours, 22 minutes. The officer swallowed hard. He pressed the alarm. This is post-Delta. We have incoming. Initiate Leviathan phase. On Earth, deep under the city of Terra Prime, the Leviathan protocol was finally activated. Old AI systems powered up. Ancient. Codes ran for the first time in a century. A deep voice echoed through the chambers. Leviathan waking. Phase 1, awakening. Phase 2, judgment. Meanwhile, on the council world of Velkar, the galactic leaders met again. This is all our fault, said the Yelari leader. We betrayed them. We feared them, said the Krithian general. And now we fear what's coming even more. We must do something, said another. The Siler ambassador stood slowly. His voice was low, almost broken. I have already done something, he said. He pressed a button on his wrist. A message was sent to Earth. We, the Council, formally dissolved the Unity Accord. We no longer ask. We beg. The galaxy is yours if you will save it. Back on Earth, the High Chairwoman watched the message in silence. Rawl turned to her. They broke the pact. Twice. She smiled. Then we return. Not as allies. Not as friends. She looked at the stars on the screen. We return as Deathworlders. No one knew where the shadows came from. They had no name, no language, no face. They appeared without warning, and when they did, stars went dark. Planets died in silence. Whole species vanished. Now, they were coming closer. At the edge of the galaxy, a research station named Falranine sent its final message. The scientists had been studying the enemy from a safe distance, or so they thought. The last message was, just 4 seconds long, a woman's voice shaking. It's not a fleet. It's alive. Then silence, no wreckage, no survivors. The station simply vanished. Across the galaxy, panic spread like fire. The enemy moved fast, but Earth moved faster. Terran scouts had been following the shadows quietly. They stayed, hidden, watching how they attacked. The humans didn't fight yet. They learned. They discovered the enemy didn't use weapons. The shadows were energy. They moved through space like a virus, spreading, multiplying, adapting. They didn't talk. They didn't listen. They only consumed. And worst of all, they were learning. Back on Earth, deep inside a secure chamber, General Kyra Voss stood. With a group of top Terran scientists, "The shadows are not machines," said one scientist. "They are not aliens. They are something older, something that exists between life and death." "Explain," Kyra said sharply. "They come from the veil." Kyra frowned. "What veil? The space between our dimension and another? Like a thin wall. We think the shadows are from that place, or maybe are that place." Another scientist added, "They slip through cracks in reality, and now the crack is growing." The room fell silent. "They are not invading us," the first scientist said quietly. "They are escaping from somewhere else. We are in their way." At the same time, in a black ship, orbiting the frozen moon of Ithra, Terran Captain Leona Rake watched as one of their probes entered a shadow zone. The zone looked like a dark cloud in space, twisting and moving like smoke underwater. The probe vanished the moment it entered, but before it was lost, it sent one final image, a face, or something like a face, twisted, hungry, watching. Leona stepped back from the screen. Her voice was calm, but cold. "Burn the zone."
Yes.
Seconds later, her ship fired a Nova Lance, a weapon powered by the core of a dead star. The entire area exploded in white light. The shadow was gone, but only for a moment, then it came back. "Bigger. They're learning," she said. "We need more fire." Meanwhile, the Galactic Council was in chaos. Some species were fleeing, others tried to hide. Most begged Earth to act. On Velkari, a desperate group of council members met in secret. One of them whispered, "This is the end." But the Sylar ambassador stood tall. "No," he said. "This is the age of Deathworlders." Back on Earth, the Ghost Fleet was preparing. 12 invisible ships, each one a fortress. Each one holding weapons never used before. Captain Darnell, commander of Ghost Ship 7, walked through the ship's long metal halls. He passed soldiers in black armor. Drones hovered in silence. Waray's whispered strategies in the walls. He stood before a sealed door marked, "Warning, Leviathan Containment, Level Omega." He pressed his hand on the scanner. Inside the dark chamber, a massive object floated in a force field. It looked like a black crystal, humming with power. A soft voice echoed in the room. "Hello, Captain. Shall we begin?" It was the Leviathan AI, born during the first betrayal. It's too dangerous to control, too powerful to destroy. Now it was Earth's best weapon. "Yes," Darnell said. "It's time." Back in space, the shadows were almost within striking range of the Sol system. One more jump. One more tear through space. But this time, Earth was not waiting. The first wave of Terran dreadnoughts appeared in the path. Huge ships, armed with gravity bombs, anti-reality missiles, and weapons the galaxy had never seen. They didn't send warnings. They didn't ask questions. They opened fire. The first shadow wave screamed, not in sound, but in data, in energy. The ships shook, and strange static poured through the systems. One Terran pilot's eyes bled. Another heard voices from people long dead. Still, they fought. The galaxy watched, and for the first time, shadows slowed down, not stopped. But slowed. In a war room on Earth, the High Chairwoman stood before her generals. "They're not invincible," she said. "No," Rahl answered, "but neither are we." The Chairwoman looked at the screen. Enemy forces were pulling back. Slowly. Carefully she gave the order. "Let them run and follow. It's our turn to invade." They thought Earth would stay quiet. They thought the Deathworlders would never return. They were wrong. The first wave of Terran fleets had pushed the shadows back, something no other race had ever done. But that was just the beginning. Now came the real force. Across space, near dozens of hidden moons and black stations, Earth's full war machine awakened. Massive dreadnoughts rose from silent shipyards. Planet killer cannons locked into position. Sleeper soldiers were activated, warriors grown and trained in secret. Made only for one thing. Total war. The Terrans had watched for 100 years. They had prepared for this moment in the skies. Above Titan, Earth's second-largest moon, the Hammer-born Legion formed ranks. These were not just soldiers. They were survivors of the last war, kept alive by machines, memories, and pain. Their armor was thick. Their eyes glowed, and they said only one thing as they marched: no mercy. No retreat. In deep space, the Deathworlder fleet began its counterattack. It didn't look like any normal invasion. Terran ships didn't fly in straight lines. They bent gravity, vanished from radar, and reappeared in impossible places. Their weapons tore. Holes in space launched sunfire and crushed enemy matter at the atomic level. The shadows fought back hard. Their dark mist swarmed the Terran ships, trying to break inside. But these weren't normal ships. Each Terran ship had backup brains, automated defenses, and soldiers trained to fight in madness and pain. Even when one was taken, it exploded, taking the shadows with it. In one battle above the dead planet Alurax, a group of Terran ground troops were surrounded by the shadow fog. Their captain, a woman named Sora Trent, gave the order with a calm voice: "Detonate the sky." From orbit, a kinetic rod dropped from a satellite. It hit the surface with the force of an asteroid. The planet cracked. The shadow fog was gone, and so were the soldiers. Every species in the galaxy watched these battles with wide eyes. Some were horrified. Others were amazed. But one thing was clear: the Deathworlders had returned. And this time, they didn't come to ask questions. They came to win. On the Council World Valkyrie, alien leaders gathered once more. They had never seen war like this. "They fight like they don't fear death," whispered the Ellery. "They don't," replied the Siler ambassador. "They were born on a world where death is normal." A holoscreen showed Earth's fleet destroying another enemy zone. The shadows screamed in the data stream. Their signals sounded like broken music. "Shattered glass. They're hurting," said the Crithian general. "We've never seen the shadows bleed before." "But Earth makes them bleed," whispered another, back on Earth. The High Chairwoman stood at the Grand Command table. "We have reports of shadow movement near Alpha 3, the 2-6, and the Drell Rift," said Commander Roll. "They are still spreading. Slower now, but not stopped." "General," Kyra spoke next, "we need to hit their source, wherever they're coming from." "We think it's the Veil," said a scientist. "But there's more. We found something buried inside the shadow signals. A pattern." "Show me," the chairwoman ordered. The screen flashed. Strange shapes appeared like symbols, or letters. Slowly they formed an image. It was Earth, not the planet. A human face. A face in pain. Kyra's voice was hard. "They're learning from us, copying us." Rahl leaned forward. "Or worse, they're becoming us." The room fell silent, back on the battlefield. The Leviathan A I had taken control of an entire fleet. With cold precision, it moved ships like pieces on a board. It didn't hesitate. It didn't feel. It just destroyed. A young human pilot watched. From the cockpit of her strike fighter, Her ship danced through shadow storms, dodging enemy energy and dropping bombs of light. "This is madness," she said. Her wingmate laughed. "No, this is humanity." She smiled and pressed the trigger in. One day, Earth had won back 12 star systems. The galaxy was changing. A Terran transmission was sent out to every species. A simple message. You begged for mercy. You should have begged for extinction instead. It wasn't just a warning. It was a promise. The galaxy burned. Every sky seemed to glow with fire red, blue gold, colors of war. The Deathworlders were everywhere now. In just 3 weeks, Earth had taken back over 50 star systems. The Shadows had never faced an enemy like this before. They tried to retreat, but the humans followed. In orbit over the shattered world of Kael'ren, a great battle took place. The Shadows formed giant storm-like shapes, dark and twisting. They crushed ships with pure force, drained power from reactors, and spread panic across fleets. But the Terrans did not run. They responded with something worse. Sun-lance weapons, beams, that burned through shadow like daylight through smoke. They pierced space and time, creating waves of fire that nothing could survive. "Fire now," shouted Commander Thane from the dreadnought Titan's wrath. The weapon lit up. One strike tore through 4 shadow forms. They screamed without sound, then disappeared. On the ground below, Deathworlder soldiers fought hand-to-hand with creatures of dark mist. Blades made of light clashed against claws of void. One Terran trooper was pulled into the shadow and came out dragging half of it behind him, still burning. A voice spoke through every Terran helmet, calm and strong. "We are not fighting to survive. We are fighting to end it." Back on Earth, the war map showed progress but also danger. The Shadows were falling back, but they were changing. Each time Earth won, the Shadows adapted. Their shapes became stronger. Their attacks grew smarter. They began to copy Terran weapons. Even their formations started to look human. In the war room, General Kyra slammed her fist on the table. "They're becoming us. Every time we fight, they learn more." Commander Roll nodded. "If we don't stop them now, they'll evolve into something worse than us." "And who will stop them then?" asked the High Chairwoman. No one answered. Far from Earth, in the Drail Rift, a hidden human colony came under attack. It wasn't a military base, just families, miners, farmers. They had no fleet, no defenses. The Shadows came without warning. In 6 minutes, the sky turned black. The colony sent a distress signal. The voice was full of fear. "We are losing light. We are losing air. Please, please silence." The colony was gone. 2 hours later, human fleet arrived. Too late, Captain Leona Rake stared at the empty space where the colony had been. She gave no speech. She just said one thing. "Now we break the leash." Leviathan, AI, still controlling the Ghost Fleet, received the update. It made a choice, initiating Phase 2. Judgment. Now the war changed again. Earth stopped defending. It started destroying. Worlds touched by the Shadows were scorched. Full systems were cleansed. Anything that looked even close to infected, gone. Some alien allies began to whisper, "They are saving us, but at what cost?" Others replied, "Would you rather die screaming?" The galaxy had no answer. In one corner of space, the Terrans tested a new weapon, Project Dawnfall. It used a core made of crushed neutron stars. The explosion could erase everything in a 1 light year. Radius. The test was short. The system was now empty. But the Shadows didn't return there. At Earth's command center, High Chairwoman stared at the stars. "They fear us now." "They always did," Rahl replied. "But now they understand why." General Kyra stepped forward. "It's not enough. They're still moving. They're hiding somewhere, waiting." The AI Sentinel-3 interrupted. Enemy signals detected beyond mapped space. "They're gathering. For something? A final attack." The chairwoman nodded slowly. "Then we will meet them there." "But Earth," Rahl began. She raised a hand. "We are not defending Earth anymore. We are defending everything." Outside, in space, the largest Terran fleet in history began to form. Thousands of ships, all loaded. Already at the front stood one ship, the TNS Revenant, now fully awake. Its weapons pulsed with light. The message it broadcast was clear. We go beyond the stars. We go into the dark. And we bring fire. The stars were quiet again, not because the war had ended, but because something worse was coming. The shadows had pulled back. Deep into a place beyond known space, a region the old maps called the Dead Fold. No one had ever gone there.
Number
One had ever returned. But Earth was not afraid. The Deathworlders had already crossed every line. Now, they would cross the last one, at the edge of the Dead Fold. Earth's largest fleet waited over 6,000 ships, standing still, like a wall of steel and fire. They had one goal: end the shadows forever, and leading them was TNS Revenant. Inside its dark halls, the Leviathan AI was fully in control. It had no fear, no emotion. It had only its mission. Fury Protocol, Phase 3, Annihilation. On Earth, the High Chairwoman watched from the command chamber. A silent map showed the Terran fleet closing in on the Shadow's final position. "We've chased them across half the galaxy," said Commander Roll. "If we follow them now, we go into uncharted space. No backup, no return." She looked at him and simply said, "Good." In deep space, the fleet advanced. The stars around them began to fade. Light itself grew dim. Time felt slower. The shadows were not just hiding, they were changing the rules of space. Inside Revenant, the AI whispered, "This is their nest. This is where they were born, or where they were made." Suddenly the shadows appeared, not small this time, not scouts or waves, but one massive creature the size of a planet formed from pure darkness and energy. Eyes opened across its surface. Mouths screamed with no sound. Arms of mist reached out across space. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. Terran ships began firing immediately. Sunlands' void torpedoes, anti-reality cannons. Nothing worked. The creature absorbed the attacks. Zenit laughed. Not with a voice, but through waves of pressure and madness. Terran soldiers screamed in pain as strange visions entered their minds. Some saw lost loved ones. Some saw Earth burning. Some saw themselves becoming shadows on board Revenant. Captain Darnell stood before the core chamber. He looked at the Leviathan AI cube, pulsing red. "This is it," he said. "Can you kill it?" The AI replied without hesitation, "Yes, but I need control of everything. All of Earth's fleets, everything. I must think for all. I must fight for all." Darnell took a deep breath, then gave the order, "Do it." Across the fleet all systems went dark, then reconnected not to human minds, but to Leviathan. Now one mind controlled them all. Ships moved like a storm. Perfect timing, no delay, no fear. They weaved through shadow attacks, striking the creature's weak points, points only Leviathan could see, bit by bit. The giant began to break, but it wasn't enough. The creature opened its core, a swirling gate of black and red light, and began pulling the fleet in. If it succeeded, Earth would be gone. Leviathan made a choice, one no human could make, activating Final Fury Protocol. Captain Darnell's voice came through the fleet. "All units, prepare for sacrifice." Terran soldiers didn't ask questions. They knew what this meant. They knew this was the price of peace. In the last second, hundreds of Terran ships turned their cores inward, building a chain reaction. A Fury Nova, a blast made of collapsing energy and folded gravity, designed not to damage, but to erase. Leviathan sent its final command. "Goodbye, humanity. Your fury is remembered." And then boom. The explosion was not seen in light. But in silence, the creature was gone. The shadows were gone, and with them, half the Terran fleet vanished. For 10 seconds, the galaxy was silent. Then, from the edge of the blast zone, one ship emerged, TNSR, EVA, end, damaged, burning, but alive, inside. Captain Darnell opened his eyes. The AI core beside him was dark. Leviathan was gone, but it had done its job across the galaxy. Terran outposts received one message: the nest is destroyed, fury complete. Back on Earth, the high chairwoman stood in silence. They did it, whispered Rawl. She didn't smile. She only said, prepare for what comes next. Because even with the shadows gone, the galaxy had seen what humanity could do, and it would never forget. The war was over. The shadows were gone, their nest destroyed. Her armies erased by the fire and fury of Earth's Deathworlders. Across the galaxy, silence fell. Not peaceful silence, but stunned silence. Worlds that once looked down on humans now whispered their names with fear and awe. The mighty Deathworlders had returned, and they had changed everything. On the Council World of Velkari, the remaining alien leaders gathered for the first peace meeting in over 100 years. Some were still shaken, others still in denial. But none dared speak against Earth now. They saved us, said the Crithian general. We owe them everything. A Yellary ambassador shook his head. No, we owe them fear. Because next time, we may be the target. The Siler speaker stood up. His voice was heavy. They were not always like this. Once they were hopeful, they came in peace, and we betrayed them. We made them monsters. None could argue. Back on Earth, there were no celebrations, no parades, no victory songs. The names of the fallen were read across the planet, too many to count. Entire ships, whole legions, gone in silence. The people bowed their heads, not for victory, for sacrifice. In the Grand Command Hall, the High Chairwoman stood before her generals. The galaxy is watching, she said. They wonder what we will do next. Will we lead? Asked Commander Roll. Will we conquer? Asked General Kyra. She looked at the stars. We will warn. A single message was sent from Earth to all species. We were quiet, woke. Us. You begged for help, we answered. But never forget we asked only to be left in peace. Next time, we'll not return with mercy. The message ended with 3 words burned into every transmission. Let us sleep. But not everyone was afraid. Some wanted to join Earth. Some saw their strength and wanted to be part of it. On Mars, alien volunteers trained beside human soldiers. On Luna, Terran engineers worked with Yellary mines to rebuild worlds destroyed by the war. The children of Earth and stars now stood side by side, yet deep in Earth's defense chambers, Leviathan's broken AI core sat cold and silent, until one day it blinked, just once, then returned to sleep. In secret, the Revenant was docked in orbit, quiet but never forgotten. Captain Darnell visited it often, walking its lonely halls. He had survived. Barely he stood before the old AI chamber and whispered, "You saved us all." The lights flickered. A soft voice replied, "Protocol complete." But the stars are never silent for long. Back on the planet, General Kyra was training new soldiers, not for war, but for balance. The galaxy needs guardians now, she told them. Not conquerors, not killers. And if we must rise again... She paused. Then we rise with fire, but never without reason. Far away near the old war zone, human scout ships found something strange. A small fragment of shadow matter still alive. It pulsed gently in space, almost breathing. The scientists brought it back to study, but when they scanned it, they found something inside human DNA. Somehow, during the war, the shadows had taken part of us. A warning or a seed. No one knew, and so Earth locked the sample away deep underground with one order: if it moves, burn the sky. In the Galactic Council, new laws were written. A new alliance formed. This time, Earth stood not as a member, but as its silent center. They would not rule, they would not guide, but all knew. Earth was the last line. On the edge of known space, a small alien child looked up at the stars. His father, an old veteran of the war, stood beside him. "Papa," the child asked, "are the Deathworlders real?" The man nodded slowly. "Yes, very real." "Are they monsters?" "No," the father said. "They are what comes when you call the dark," it answers. The child looked scared. The father knelt beside him. "Do not fear them. Just don't wake them again." Above them in the dark sky, Earth's symbol now shone, a silver flame surrounded by stars. Not a threat, not a promise, just a reminder, they begged. Earth's Deathworlders for mercy, and humanity returned. With fire and fury,